During Kamala Harris's first town hall with CNN, she was asked a question about Medicare for All and whether or not she supported it. Now, she gave a pretty strong answer, and it appeared that she was very supportive of Medicare for All. But then later, there was a little bit of equivocating happening. There was a little bit of a concession to some of the more moderate Democrats when it came to this issue. And so recently, Jake Tapper asked her to clarify what her true position is. And here's what she had to say.
You said on stage with me in January that when it comes to private insurance, quote, let's eliminate all of that, let's move on.
Yes.
Now you later said we don't need to get rid of all private insurance. So.
But let's clear that.
Which is it exactly?
We were together.
Yes.
And you'll remember and roll the tape, please.
Yeah, we can roll the tape. Well, you support the Bernie Sanders bill, which essentially gets rid of insurance.
I support Medicare for All, but I really do need to clear up what happened on that stage.
Okay.
It was in the context of saying, let's get rid of all the bureaucracy. Let's get all of the ways.
Oh, not the insurance companies.
No, that's not what I meant. I know it was interpreted that way. If you watch the tape, I think you'll see that there are obviously many interpretations of what I said. What I meant is let's get rid of the bureaucracy.
Okay, we're gonna roll the tape for you. So she asked, we'll do that because we care about the facts here. So far, Jake Tapper's done nothing wrong. He's challenging her on something that any good journalist should challenge her on. Well, you said get rid of private insurance, then you walked it back. So which one is it? Great question, no problem at all. Her answer, I mean, there's the awkward laughing because she got caught. And so, all right, move past the style, go to the substance. And she says, no, I just meant get rid of the bureaucracy. I'm not sure that's what you meant at all. And those two things they don't make sense. So like, do you want to get rid of private insurers or don't you? So let's roll the tape and see what she actually said back then.
What is your solution to ensure that people have access to quality health care at an affordable price? And does that solution involve cutting insurance companies as we know them out of the equation?
I believe the solution, and I'm actually feel very strongly about this, is that we need to have Medicare for all. That's just the bottom line.
Correct me if I'm wrong. To reiterate, you support the Medicare for All bill. I think initially co-sponsored by Senator Bernie Sanders. You're also a co-sponsor on it. I believe it will totally eliminate private insurance. So for people out there who like their insurance, they don't get to keep it?
Well, listen, the idea is that everyone gets access to medical care. And you don't have to go through the process of going through an insurance company, having them give you approval, going through the paperwork, all of the delay that may require. Who of us has not had that situation where you got to wait for approval and the doctor says, well, I don't know if your insurance company is going to cover this? Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on.
So she could say, hey, I said eliminate all of that when referring to all that paperwork, et cetera. But clearly he asked, would you get rid of private insurance? And she began by saying yes, and she ended by saying, let's get rid of all of that. So, and by the way, that's actually a good answer.
Right.
She should have just stuck with it instead of doing what politicians do. Afterwards, she had her spokespeople walk it back, and now she's somewhere in the middle of the road. And even after the second Tapper interview, I'm not exactly sure where she is.
Right, so she does seem to be wishy-washy when it comes to this issue. But later in the interview, she gets a little more specific. So I want you to watch and tell me if you're gonna give her any credit. Let's take a look at the next tape.
The bill gets rid of insurance.
But no, it does not get rid of insurance. It does not get rid of insurance. And listen, and let me just tell you where I am. Let's tell you where I am.
All right.
I support Medicare for all. It is my preferred
as a principle, you mean, not Bernie Sanders' bill?
I support the bill.
Okay.
I support the bill.
Because the bill gets rid of private insurance for everything that
it doesn't get rid of supplemental insurance.
Right, for cosmetic surgery, but for all.
So it doesn't get rid of all insurance.
Okay, it doesn't get rid of all insurance, but for all essential healthcare benefits.
But why? Ask the question why. The question, if the answer to that question is because Medicare for all and the vision of what it will be includes an expansion of coverage. So Medicare for all will include vision, it'll include dental, it'll include hearing aids.
So I love the second half of that answer.
Yeah,
and I
me
wish she'd have stayed on that and she'd have emphasized it more. But she is trying to equivocate.
Yes.
She's trying to put out there, I'm not saying get rid of all private insurance, but I'm for Medicare for all, which would get rid of all private insurance except supplemental insurance for things like cosmetic surgery. If you're gonna have that position, go in defending it, and then you'll be a champion for it, and we'll rally, and we'll be like, hey, that's it, that's wonderful. But when you equivocate, you're doing it for a reason, and we know it. So you could turn around and say to people who are not in favor of Medicare for all, well, I didn't say I'd get rid of all private insurance, and turn around to the people who like Medicare for all and say, I did say I'm for Medicare for all. You want it both ways. And it's not the old days. In the 1990s, you could have done that till the cows came home. Now you're gonna get caught. And then what could have been a good answer has now turned into a bad answer because you look like a politician.
Yeah, I agree with you in that the second part of the interview was much stronger, but the way that she words everything is for future plausible deniability.
100%.
Depending on where the country's headed, depending on where the party's headed. And so she doesn't want to get pushback from those who are super supportive of Medicare for all. She doesn't want to get pushback from those who are not supportive of Medicare for all, which is the Democratic establishment for the most part. Now, there was one tiny snippet of this interview that was incredibly strong, and I want to give her credit for it. Let's take a look.
The bill also says, quote, every individual who is a resident of the United States is entitled to benefits for healthcare services under this act. Not every individual who's a citizen, but every individual who's a resident. So you support giving universal healthcare, Medicare for all, to people who are in this country illegally?
Let me just be very clear about this. I am opposed to any policy that would deny in our country any human being from access to public safety, public education, or public health, period.
I love that.
Yes, so normally when she says, let me be clear about this, she's about to be unclear about it, but not in that case.
Right.
In that case, she was clear about it. So that was just a very solid answer. Now let's go to Cenk Tapper. Okay, can you frame things from a more Mitch McConnell point of view? Correct answer is no, you cannot. And so if Cenk was like the BBC and he's challenging all comers very aggressively, that's fine. And he could turn around and say, hey, look, I don't have a point of view on Medicare for all or not Medicare for all. I'm just asking tough questions of Kamala Harris. Should we get rid of private insurance or shouldn't we? Okay, that would be one thing. And can Cenk Tapper say he's been tough on the Trump administration? From time to time, definitely. Is he tough on establishment Republicans? Hell no. Hell no. He never challenges Mitch McConnell and Ted Cruz that way. No way. So what's wrong with the framing? He says, people like their private insurance. Are you gonna get rid of that private insurance? Well, yes. Why? Because you're not telling the whole truth to the American people when you frame that question in that way. We get rid of that insurance to give you better insurance. What do I mean by better? It covers more things. So if you're worried like, oh, right now my insurance has a low copay, good news, this has no copay. Well, my insurance is pretty good because it covers cancer and heart attacks. I mean, it doesn't cover other issues. Good news, Medicare for all covers all of that and everything else, all the way through dental and vision. Now, every time the Tappers of the world frame it as, you're getting rid of private insurance, and they don't tell you the other half of the equation, which is that you would get better insurance. That is journalistic malpractice.
Yeah, and going back to the last video that we showed you, the way he asked the question was 100% inaccurate. So he specifically mentions that the proposal would cover residents of the United States, and then he proceeded to ask her, do you support health insurance, or I'm sorry, coverage for people who are here illegally? Well, first of all, it would cover residents who are not here illegally. And secondly, residents pay taxes. So why wouldn't they have access to the healthcare provided under Medicare for all?
Besides which, undocumented people also pay taxes.
That's true, yeah.
Through payroll tax and sales tax. And since they're not documented, they never get that money back. In fact, studies have shown that they pay more into the system than they get out of the system. But when Tapper frames it that way, it makes it seem like, oh, well, the right wing is right. These people are they're here illegally and milking off of us by getting like treatment for a gunshot or for a heart attack.
For an illness,
right?
We're
not letting them bleed to death on the streets, and they didn't pay into it, but actually they did. And so that is why the framing is all wrong. So that's why when they said about Saddam Hussein, hey, did he do 9/11? 70% of the country thought he did when we went to the Iraq War, because the media said Bush says this, Cheney says this, Bush says this, Cheney says this, and they never corrected them.
They just
Saddam didn't do 9/11. So that was terrible journalism. Can I at least, I mean, at this point, they always admit like, oh, well, there was some problems during the Iraq War coverage and we should have done better. Okay, how? How should you have done better? You should have given the full information instead of the talking point from both sides or either side. You should have actually pursued the truth rather than what the Republican Party says or the Democratic Party says. But have they learned from that? Have they fixed it? No. So when the Republican talking point is, they're gonna take your private insurance away that you like so much. Why do you like it? It has low deductibles. I can deal with my premium. And you don't tell them that the new plan has no deductibles, no premiums, no copays, and covers more. Well, then that's horrible. It's misrepresenting what the reality is. Now, if you were to say, hey, taxes are gonna go up for 5% of the country in order to make this happen, that would be true. Okay, then say that. And you wanna give that context? No problem. About 95% of the country has lower costs under this system. 5% does have higher costs. Okay, be upfront about that. We're not looking to hide the ball. But when you make it seem like Medicare for All is higher taxes and people just don't even have insurance, that's insane. And if you say, oh, no, everybody knows that. No, they don't. No, they don't, because all they ever hear is television pundits tell them how there's no private insurance. And so look, Kamala Harris, stop going with what your consultants are telling you and what your gut as a politician is, which is equivocation. You're actually right on Medicare for All. You're right on supporting Bernie Sanders' bill. Come out guns blazing. Don't say on that one hand this, on the other hand that. Say, Jake, understand you did half of that here. You could have done the whole interview on that. Yeah, we take away private insurance because we give you better insurance. Be strong. Kamala Harris has it in her to be super strong.
Yes.
So by all means, do it already.
Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.